So I was reading your essay, the essay that you posted, on Sapiens Institute. So,
Which
it was
essay? The one on predestination?
yeah, the one
Yeah,
that was
let's Hijab
posted two
essay.
days
Yep,
ago.
yep, yep.
Yeah. So, I just had a question about like one of the paragraphs. So, the paragraph about Ibn Taymiyyah and like how he thought that human actions from one perspective were necessary and from the other perspective was contingent. I understood that, but the last sentence was kind of confusing. You basically say that we could not have done, this is quoting you, we could not have done otherwise, not because our actions are not efficacious, or, and this is in parentheses, or because we do not possess a libertarian free will, but because we are permitted to act by a necessary being with a necessary will. So, what do you mean by, I was just kind of confused by this because doesn't libertarian free will entail that you can do otherwise? Isn't that like a staple of what people that believe in libertarian free will believe? And also how like, yeah, could you just explain like why we as Muslims do not believe that we could not have done otherwise?
So what Ibn Taymiyyah talks about is he differentiates, as you mentioned, is Majmu'at al-Fatawa reference that you're talking about. He gives the example of like the plants and the tree, and that is caused, it's caused by the seed, or the child that's caused by the mother. And he says from one perspective, it's caused by the parent, but from another perspective, it's ultimately caused by God. And so he's saying that the same thing can really be applied to our free will. So in a sense, we have, if we abstract our free will, it's contingent. It is something we could have done otherwise, but it's never abstracted. So he uses the phrase "ممكن لنفسه واجب لغيره," that it's contingent with reference to itself, but it's necessary with reference to another.
Okay.
And so this in the real world, this abstraction never takes place. There is no
Ah,
there is no such event where in which our free will is abstracted from Allah's determinism.
so
It works in a way that it works. The compatibilist model says it works in a way as if it were abstracted like that. So in other words, we will not be judged for anything that we don't choose to do ourselves. We will be judged for everything that we do ourselves. However, everything we do ourselves is connected to Allah's will, which is necessary. So from that perspective, so there's two perspectives. From one perspective, is what we do is necessary. It's connected to Allah's Qadr, and there's no way around that. But from another perspective, which is in abstraction, without reference to that, without reference to Allah's Qadr, everything we do is choice. So the compatibilist position says that basically Allah, He judges us exactly as we would be judged if everything were our decision, which nothing is, because we're living in a determined world. So He doesn't judge us on the fact that, or He forces us to do something, and then yani, the Jabari position, He forces us to do something and then He puts us in the hellfire. That would be impossible. That would go against Allah's justice. So he says the only way around this discussion is if you consider it from two perspectives. The abstraction, so our behaviors and our free will in abstraction, which is like libertarian free will, which doesn't exist in the real world, and the deterministic position, which is Allah's determined everything, including our actions and where we'll end up being. But that both of those two things are put together such that our masir, or our end judgment, is based on our actions. How that works, as I mentioned, is impossible for anyone to find out.
Yes. And Isma says a really good point. She says, I think this is a matter that only Allah knows the true nature of. And that's exactly what the essay concludes, that we can affirm divine freedom and human free will. We could affirm them, but we have no way of understanding
how they work
together.
Okay.
So you could say that humans have free will within the absolute will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how that happens. And this for me has an existential component, which is this humbles us because it teaches us that we're contingent limited being. We have limited cognitive faculties. We're never going to be able to access the full broad knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has the picture, we just have a pixel. Allah has the totality of knowledge and wisdom. We don't even have a fragmentary pixelated understanding of reality. And we're trying our best. And this actually goes to show that there are some areas that we're never going to deal with. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't want people to get a shubha because of this. Because think about it. The physicalists who believe the whole physical world can be reduced to physical processes, they have this ontology. This is the lens in which they understand the reality. They affirm, yes, physicalism is the only way to understand reality. But there are so many unanswered questions in physicalism. So many. In actual fact, they don't even know how to define what is physical. Because quantum realities are now really smashing against a maybe more traditional understanding of what is the physical.
As you said, that book fell down.
Yeah. So and there's and quantum reality and Newtonian physics, the non-complementary paradigms. Just there's many unanswered questions, even in the kind of, if you like, a secular physicalist understanding. And yet, just because there's unanswered questions, they're not going to throw the whole physicalist project out of the window. And likewise with us, we have a strong foundation. We have a truth. We could show that Allah exists, that He's one, He's worthy of worship. The Prophet ﷺ is the final prophet. The Quran is from Allah. These are foundational truths. These other questions are what you call secondary. And if you can't answer them, they're not undermining the foundations, okay? Allah bless you all.
Okay.
So that's what salam to your parents, and maybe be a good boy to your parents, yeah.
Inshallah,
and,
inshallah. Thank you so much.
And tell them this is it's a glad tidings for you to have insightful questions. May Allah bless you and increase you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.